Guys, welcome back to another episode of the TO Show. Again, appreciate everyone's support last episode. Guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. But we got a very special guest this week. We got a podcaster, a little collab session here this week, which is awesome, man. What I like what these guys are doing. I love like listening to their stuff. They got a lot of fun, different kind of things that they like to do. It's about everything, man. Everything you can think of. Man, we got the Running the World podcast, guys. We got Alex Chelton and John Yule. There we go. John Yule, sorry. It's so weird. Thanks guys for coming on the show. I really appreciate you guys coming on. It's an honor to be here. How are you guys doing today?
Good.
Yeah, we're doing well.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you guys on. So you guys started up your podcast here relatively soon, like around when I started mine up. So what made you guys want to start up your Running the World podcast?
So we started like a year ago. We started before COVID. And we started in January and like COVID hit in March. So we put out a couple episodes. I think we got we got 5 or 6, I want to say.
I think it was 5.
7 was like the magic number. If you get your podcast past 7, that's when you're like pretty set. If you don't reach 7 episodes, that's when majority of them fail. So we knew we needed to get to that 7 milestone, and COVID hit, and spring break hit. So we had a week off, and then we came back, and then we got sent home for COVID. So we didn't do anything virtually. We just kind of put it away, and we're like, all right, we'll get to it when we can. We'll try to do a couple of Zooms. We never got around to it. And then we got back in the fall and we still never got around to it. And then we came back for the second semester and we're like, we need to get this thing back up and going. So here we are. We got it.
I know like over winter break, I texted Alex and I was like, hey, like, what if we actually like put some money into the podcast and, actually try to fire it back up? And we kind of agreed on that. And then we got back in this semester and started firing it up again.
That's awesome. So what do you guys, I know just for my viewers who don't know who you guys are, you guys are both on the cross country team. What do you guys talk about on your guys' podcast?
So our podcast, literally anything. We started it with kind of the vision of we want to get like entrepreneurs or people that are doing something like unique, not just following the old go to college, get a regular job, waste away, not do anything crazy. Like, we're all about kind of some people that do something interesting, get out, go do this thing. They don't take the traditional route, and it's going to get them somewhere. And then for a lot of our guests that we've had so far, they're already way ahead of their peers, and they're just going to continue to be. We kind of get them before they blow up, and then when they blow up, we're like, yep, we had them on the podcast. So look at us now.
Maybe it's like a good luck thing. It's a good luck thing for you. Like it's like, oh, you got to come on the podcast to, start off your entrepreneurial spirit and kind of blow up after that.
Yeah. So one of our first guests we had on, he was on the Ellen show as a kid. And so we had him come on and talk about that and stuff. And he was the president of his fraternity, and it was right around rushing season. So we were like, hey, we'll let you come on and talk about like the rushing process, because I feel like that's something a lot of people were interested in. And I feel like if the more you know about it, the more you'll be willing to like look at it at least. Like you have the option. If you don't know about it, you're not going to think about it. But so after he came on, then Erie Apparel, which is a local brand, they asked him to model, and he said everything's been on the come up since he went on the podcast. So we've been telling people it's good luck to come on.
That's awesome. That's awesome stuff. So you guys both on the cross country team, and you guys are starting up this podcast, and really outside of just kind of getting in the entrepreneurial spirit, was there any like one specific time you guys had where it's like, man, why not just start up a podcast or something like that? Is there any specific moment, and why did you guys decide to do it together?
I think I can't recall like a specific moment where we were like, we need to start a podcast, but it was something that we I know I watched a lot of podcasts and so did he, and we figured it was like, something easy we could do, and it wouldn't require a lot of money or time or any of that, but we were very wrong at the beginning. I don't know if anybody's watched our first videos. We'd set up shop in the library with an iPhone, and we just set an iPhone on a tripod and record. And we didn't have any microphones at that time. So
we had a microphone when we started.
Did we?
Yeah, we had the one.
Yeah.
But now we're on to bigger and better things. We're in the studio. We got a lot more going for us. We advanced from the library to our attic of our house that we live in this year. We created into a studio, and now we're in an actual production studio.
Sweet. How did you guys, so you guys are in a production studio. How did that work out? How did you guys get into like, how did that happen?
So I started an internship with a grad student who ran for cross country for Gannon.
One of our guests, actually.
One of our
He was
guests, yeah.
episode 4, I think.
Yeah. So I started an internship with him. He has a digital marketing and media business. And he took me to this place. It's called Radius Co-work in downtown Erie. And it's kind of just like a co-work place where you sign up. It's like a monthly fee and you can come up to the office and you can use anything. And they just, right before COVID, they put in a podcast studio. Well, it wasn't specifically for podcasts, but it was kind of like a studio where you can come and shoot, and it's like a nice designated area. And when I started this internship, he was like, yo, I want to start a podcast for the business and whatnot. And he was like, you can also use the studio for personal use too. So we've just been coming up here the past 2 episodes, and yeah, we kind of get to use all this equipment. We didn't pay for any of it, but yeah. So
That's nice to have a kind of like high tech, and see you got the sound kind of thing, so a nice sound quality and stuff like that. I'm recording out of my dorm room, which is kind of funny, and just kind of doing it how I do it. I just got the equipment. I did some bunch of research, and it just happened, and next I think here in about 2 months, not even, I'll have my own podcast in my house. I'll have like my own podcasting studio, like a room just dedicated to that, which would be pretty cool. I'll have to do a video and show everyone how it's going to look, but it's going to be pretty sweet.
Absolutely. That's the cool thing that I think is so special at podcasts, is it's not like a website. It's not like a thing that has a form and it has to be like this and you expect these features. Like a podcast is whatever you want it to be. It can be whatever topic you want, and you can craft it towards either what you want to talk about or what people want to hear, or both. You find that middle ground, and depending on your expertise or who you're friends with and like who you have access to, you kind of make it around whatever you want it to be. And it just, where it starts and where it ends are 2 completely different things, but the path along there is fun to watch. And that's one thing I really enjoy about the podcast process so far.
I was just saying, it's nice to look back and be like, wow, we were sitting in the Gannon University library, like recording on an iPhone. And like, now we have like all these like studios, lights, sound, everything. So it's kind of cool to watch it grow.
That is pretty sweet. I think it's also fun to watch it because like, I have no journalism background or anything like that, or any kind of background. I don't know anybody who started a podcast or anything like that really before I started. So kind of just like the first couple episodes, like kind of figuring out how does this work, and like how do I edit this, or figuring out, doing all a bunch of research, figuring out, all right, what's the best thing to do, like for each little spot here for the budget I have or whatever it is. I think it's really sweet. But what I also love about the podcast is just networking, like being able to talk to you guys or other people and get to hear different stories. You guys have a podcast already, which is awesome. But if you guys didn't have that, being able to use some sort of platform to get your voice out, because you guys probably on the cross country team, you guys probably don't get the coverage that the football team there, or the basketball team, or even the baseball team might get for you guys. But I think that's super important. What you guys are doing is great, because your voice needs to be heard. And I think whether it's cool or stupid or whatever it is, like I think it's important for everybody to know that you have a voice, and you're individual person, which I think is important, and letting your voice know and let people hear it.
Yeah. That's the cool thing about our podcast, I think, is we have, like, we're not pigeonholed into like a certain group of who we can have on. Like our first episodes were our buddies and people that have been on our team, and people that are like where we will be in a couple of years. Like they're just graduating college and they're getting into those jobs, and they kind of talked about how to get in that, how that process went for them, like to prepare you for the future. And like a couple episodes ago, we had a girl that's trying to be on like the cover of Maxim. Like we just have a whole wide variety of people that are just trying to do some crazy stuff. And that's something I think is really cool, especially because like that doesn't limit what we can talk about, and that we're pretty open as far as that.
Yeah, I think being able to network with different people and learn their story is what I find so fascinating. Like I've had a bunch of people here at LSU Albany where I've never met them in my entire life, but they came on the podcast and we had a great conversation. I got to learn their story as long as the viewers got to learn who they are and their story. And I think that's super cool to be able to hear different people and like what they went through to get to their point they're at, and their stances on maybe a couple topics, on a couple things. And I think it's just cool to hear different perspectives and how different people got to the place where they got to be today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys got, you guys are at Gannon University, which anybody who's not familiar with is in Erie, Pennsylvania. It's a pretty good private school there. So what are you guys majoring in, and what are you guys looking to do? I know you guys are relatively still underclassmen and stuff. What are you guys looking to do prior to graduating at Gannon?
Okay, so we're both sophomores, like you said, on the cross country team. I am a bio pre-med major. Might add a philosophy major, but probably not. I started on that track and I was like, this is too much. Like, I enjoy learning about it, but not enough to get a major. John?
So I'm a business management and entrepreneurship major, so I'm double majoring. So I anticipate to be, be doing something along the lines of what we're currently doing in like the digital space. I just took that internship with marketing, even though I'm not a marketing major, but I figured I'd try it. So I'd say definitely for me, something in like the digital space.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
For me, obviously post is I want to go to med school, and then I think I want to be a sports doc just because I've been around athletes my whole life, and that's kind of who I can easily relate to, and I feel like better serve.
I think that's so true. It's just a lot of work, man. It's tough. It's not easy. I mean, whatever you're doing. So, John, you talked about the digital space. Whoa, can you be a little bit more specific? Because I'm interested. I'm looking into the digital marketing space and stuff like that. What are you looking to do in the digital space?
Well, digital marketing is actually really cool. So since you're kind of looking at it, I can talk about it a little bit just because the couple of weeks I've been doing the internship. It's cool because you're able to create like literal like content, like you're able to shoot videos, shoot photos for people's business, and that's what they're paying you to do. So if you really like doing camera work, you like editing and all that stuff, like I'd say it's really for you. I didn't necessarily think I was going to like it as much as I do. I haven't really got to go out into the field much, but just like looking at the content that the guy who hired me is creating, it's unbelievable what he's doing with just a drone and a camera. So I think that's really cool and potentially something I would definitely want to get into.
Yeah, I think a little bit me on the other side is more of like the analytical part, or like the Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, even stuff like that. That what drives me on the digital side is not necessarily the content and creating it, which what I do, because like my last couple episode, really I made a golf video like just for fun, just to see how I do, and it's clearly been perceived pretty well so far, which is awesome. Thank you guys for supporting that and getting into that. But like, I think like finding, like being able to learning the analytics, and like whether it's like a web page or like Facebook or Facebook ads or Google ads and stuff like that, I find that super cool, which hopefully, this name, image, likeness stuff coming out here in the next couple months, which would be pretty sweet because, maybe eventually I can start actually making money off my podcast or different things. Which would be pretty sweet to be able to look at different ads and use, promote things and different stuff, which would be really cool, which will help me kind of propel myself, hopefully being able to put that on my resume eventually someday, to be able to say, oh man, I created my own business and did all these things, and here's where I'm at. And it'd be pretty sweet. It just sucks that as athletes, that there's different rules. If we weren't athletes, we'd be able to do this, whatever we wanted. There'd be no rules and regulations. It just, hopefully this name, image, likeness stuff with NCAA can come out sooner than later, because I'm really excited to experiment and try different things.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel that. I feel like right now for us, since we're still under the NCAA kind of umbrella, and we can't really like promote much or even promote ourselves at all, or like our business. I feel like this time we have right now is like we're in a building phase. So like building that platform, building like a fan base. So then once we are out of like the NCAA's clause, if you will,
Yep.
can start actually like, qualifying for making money off YouTube, or, selling shirts, doing all that stuff that, we could do if we weren't under the NCAA.
And most importantly for me, it's not even like, forget making money. It's being able to like shout out the homies.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be able to be like, hey, my buddy does this. Like, when you're talking about Nick, I want to be like, Nick is awesome. He takes these awesome drone shots. This is his Instagram. Go look at his Instagram. He takes dope pictures. Like, the fact that that is like one of the things that they kind of stay away from. Like, I understand why, but it's just kind of, it's just tough because it's something you just want to do. It's something natural. You always like, you want to show the homie some love, but something you just got to hold back, and it's always something you think about. Like, you just say something, especially for podcasting, because it's like a live and it's not necessarily live, but like it's more raw than, you don't really cut it up that much. Like, you're going to say something, but as you're talking, you have to like think about where you're going to take your point, because you have to like steer clear of where the NCAA doesn't want you to go. And those boundaries aren't even like really that well defined a lot of times. So you have to like really steer clear and try to.
I'd agree.
So,
I agree. So like when I started up, I didn't really know I knew like the rules. Okay, I'm not promoting like or anything like that. But we were talking about like types of restaurants. Hey, what's some cool restaurants to like go look at? Like if you're in the Albany area, or like what cool places even on campus. Like, all right, do you want to like, what are some go-to places that you like to go on campus to go eat? And like, that was somewhat gray boundary and whatever. And so we were able, I had to shut some stuff down, edit some stuff out. And it was just like kind of interesting, because it was just like, well, I wouldn't have never thought that this was something to do. And so it was just kind of like, oh, well, I got to take it down just to be precautionary. And then eventually when I went over and talked to compliance and went over the guidelines, it was great to figure out, okay, here's what I can and cannot say, and do whatever, which is great. You guys talked a little bit about, starting your podcast, whatever. Anybody who's starting up a podcast, what recommendations would you give them, who might be thinking about one or just starting one up?
I would say don't know everything. You don't need to know everything when you start out. You don't need to have everything figured out. It's a learning process. Like, you're going to learn along the way. Anything you do, the thing about school, when you start school, you don't know everything. Like, you need to be comfortable not knowing, I would say. Because like, there were a lot of times where we would spend hours like looking stuff up that really didn't matter. You're not going to like, as many Google searches as you're going to put in, they're really not going to help. You need to get in. Just need to get in front of the camera, sit down in front of the microphone, play around with it. Just do it over and over and over again until you figure it out, because it does get easier, but you're not going to figure it out by like watching other people do it. You just need to get your hands in the ring and just get after it. And I would say, like, for the name, image, likeness stuff, I wouldn't wait around until they're like cleared up, because people like us are going to have the upper hand on you. Like, we've already been we'll have 40, 50 episodes out by the time, like, if that ever happens, like, we'll be well ahead of you. We already have set up, like, now you're going to start to try to come in, but we already have all these people that already listen to our stuff, we already have that captive audience. Why would they go towards you? You know what I mean? Not you, but like, you know what I mean? The people that are listening. We just froze up. Are we frozen on your side?
Yeah, you're frozen. Am I frozen?
No, you're not frozen. We're frozen.
Yeah, no, I can see my like frozen image on the screen right now. So this is what I'm talking about. This is part of the process. You just learn about.
Yep.
You just got to be ready for random
All right,
stuff.
you're just learning. We're learning as we go. It's all
Absolutely.
a learning process. It's all a learning curve. I'd agree, Alex, 100%. Just not worrying about. Oh, hang on here.
Yeah, you're good. I think you just reset the camera. You can keep talking.
Yeah, like I said, I wouldn't worry about having so many. Don't worry about like what other people are doing, or I would just create content. Create content that people like to hear. It's not about money. There you go. It's not about money. It's not about views. If you enjoy, at the end of the day, if you enjoy creating content and you enjoy what you do, like, honestly, being able to talk to you guys and talk to all my guests, like, I think this is my 10th episode. Just being able to talk to you guys and get to learn different information is just so cool, so fascinating. I originally just started up a podcast because I was like, why not? Why not me? Like, let's just have a good time with it. I want to get to know some people maybe that I do know that I don't know very well, and other people who I don't know at all. I get to know them relatively, and I get to broadcast it. And it's just cool to being able to use this as a tool to be able to connect with people and learn their different stories, which I think is so powerful.
Yeah, no, and I wanted to go back to the advice thing, and maybe you can take this advice. So you said you were getting a new studio and whatnot. I'm not sure what you used to record on, but for us, lighting is everything. You can get a super clean shot with an iPhone if you have the right lighting. I mean, if you have terrible lighting, then your shots can look terrible. You don't need to buy the $1,000 camera to have good lighting. Like we use an iPhone still to this day. We have 2 cameras and an iPhone, and I would say lighting definitely is 100% like half the video.
Yep. And you don't have to go out and spend a bunch of money on box lights. You can just smash the TV in and put some paper towels over it, and it makes a great box light.
Interesting. I did buy a little lighting kit from the little spot here, but it's not optimal just because of just the space I'm dealing with. So it's just kind of more about creating content for people. And, like the video quality will come at the end of the day. It'll eventually get better once I get put in that studio, and I'll be able to just leave it there and not have to mess around with certain things each time. So it'll be a lot better to see how that goes, and it'll be fun. And like I said, at the end of the day, you don't have to have a video. You can post stuff on YouTube where you just have a picture or something, your logo or whatever. You don't need to have necessarily spend money on a video or box lights or whatever. Like a lot of people just have, it's almost like a radio show. So I think if you're looking into that, just literally just do that. And if you don't feel comfortable on camera, just start talking and see where it goes.
Yeah. And like for us, and like everyone says it, between it with your iPhone, your computer, with an iPad, whatever you have, the software that's on there, we do everything through GarageBand for audio. Like that's a thing that comes right with your iPad or your Mac. Like we didn't buy anything. We don't do anything special with audio. We just take the audio right from where we have it, phone, all these microphones, whatever, pop it right on to that, and it's good to go. And you don't need these expensive studio.
There's a bunch of free web things you can download as well. If you don't have a Mac or anything like that,
yeah.
I have a Windows, and so being able to do a PC and being able to do that, it's just just type in free stuff, and there's like my software I use is free, and it was actually used in a couple movies people did which is movies I never would have guessed, which are pretty cool. And there's a bunch of other if you just don't have a video and you have some sort of audio, there's a bunch of different audio things to record and to edit and do stuff, which a lot more capacity than what I'm dealing with, because I'm not the tech wizard at all. I'm kind of just going and doing it as I go and figuring it out and messing around with stuff, which it's just kind of fun.
Yeah. And like we said, it's a learning process. You'll figure it out along the way. We live in an age when you can find anything you need to know in a second. You go on Google, you go on YouTube, you type in how to, whatever. And like I said, you have to learn how to do it yourself. Watching it just on the screen isn't going to do it, but it'll get you a lot of the way there. You get on Google right now, you're like, how to do a podcast. I guarantee a bunch of these websites come up that all you have to do is plug a format in, or plug your audio format into, and it uploads it to everywhere. Because I know we use a website just like that, and that's all we do. We just take our audio from the app that comes right on my computer, throw it on there, and it distributes all of it for us. We don't do any of that work. So just a couple Google searches, and you're ready to go.
Yeah. Exactly. And so, but you guys being student athletes and dealing with academics, and especially Alex, you dealing with the medical field and getting into that, how do you guys are able to balance time and doing this podcast and finding time to edit and do all these things? How are you guys able to? It's probably a little bit easier with co-hosting instead of just having it as one, because if you're busy one week, the other one can do the other way and stuff like that. But how do you guys deal with being able to time manage, because that's such important as a student athlete?
Oh, you go first.
I think personally for me, I do my best work when I'm busy. So balancing running, schoolwork, podcasts, and that internship I've been doing for a couple of weeks. It's a lot, but there's not a lot of time where I'm just like messing around. I kind of just grind through all my work. And like for instance, I was up at 4 a.m. editing a podcast because it had to come out. Like it was our Maxim model guest, and it had to come out. I didn't have an option. I just kind of, put my head down and I had to grind through it, and I finished at 4 a.m. But I would say I just do my best work when I'm busy and stay busy. That's it.
I would agree. And the biggest thing is like, especially I feel like if it was by yourself, you'd be able to like just kind of work on your own time. But for us, the biggest thing for when you're doing it together is you need to make a schedule. Like you need to figure it out beforehand when you're going to record, because we try to put our episodes out on Thursdays. So we always have to figure out, all right, I work this day. He's doing his internship this day. What night can we get into the studio? When can we do this? We got to record because we need a day and a half to be able to chop up the audio, chop up the video, do everything, edit it so that it looks good. And it takes it takes a whole day just for it to render on YouTube.
Yeah, it takes a good amount of time to.
Yeah, so you just got to get ahead of it. But also, like he said, keep him busy. Like I as well do my best work when I have a lot on my plate, like between work and running. And like now that we don't have practice this whole week, and we're only we're second day in. We don't have practice this week because we have finals next week. And we're just like, the whole house is just dragging. My whole house is my teammates all are my roommates as well. And they're all just like, we're all lazy and we haven't done anything all week. We're just like hanging around, and I'm like just seeing sides of them I haven't seen in a long time because we've been practicing hard since the fall.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. How are you guys doing with COVID and cross country? How are you guys doing well with and competing as well? Getting everything kind of moved from the fall to the spring. How are you guys able to adjust with that at Gannon?
So we found out the true reason why cross country is a fall sport this year, because almost all of our races, it was snowing and cold and it was miserable. I don't know if for Erie fans, I don't know if you guys know anything about Erie, Pennsylvania. We get about 200 inches of snow a year. So when we came back, our conference championships were in the middle of March. Well, you can't just show up and run a conference time. You can't just start training in March. You got to start training well before that. So by the time we had like a fall season, we just did a couple like inter squad scrimmages in the fall. And so you get done with your semester in November at the beginning of December. So we just start training as soon as that semester was over to be ready, because when we came back to school in January, we needed to be ready to run because we had conference in a couple months. So by the time we got around to that, we were trying to train on roads that the plows weren't hitting. We were trying to run on days where it's just an absolute blizzard out. There's 6 inches of snow from the time we start running to the time we get back. We're running in shoes that have yak tracks on them because there's just that much snow and the plows aren't hitting it, and it's just an absolute mess. So that's just something we're not used to dealing with in the fall. In the spring, we just kind of take it easy. We get our distance runs in. We don't have to worry about training as hard. But to get into that race shape, we had to find another gear that we've never had to hit before, because normally we run either in the fall or in the spring. Mm-hmm. Like later in the spring, like now would be track season. So we wait till the snow would melt to really be able to train. But it was a bit of a disaster.
Yeah, it was rough. The majority of the time I just didn't run because it was just hard to run outside. Like I'm from Ohio, so usually our spring isn't terrible, but now coming up to Erie, Pennsylvania and trying to run in January and just complete ice, it's easier just to stay in bed and take a nap.
Well, and the big demoralizing thing for us was, so when the whole fall semester didn't snow. It almost always snows a little bit before Halloween. That's pretty much like the date around here. Halloween, you get your first snowfall. Well, it didn't snow at all that first semester, and we left early. We started the semester really early. We went 15 weeks straight, and they got us out of there. So we were out of there when we left for Thanksgiving, we were done with school. So it didn't snow at all at that point. It didn't snow hardly at all in December and hardly at all in January until we got back. The day we got back, our first run, blizzard. It was snowing so hard. And we were like, are you kidding me? Like when we left and it hadn't snowed yet, I was like, you watch. When we get back here in the spring, we are going to have so much snow to deal with. And our coach was like, no, we'll be all right. We were not all right. We had so much snow to deal with, and they were only plowing like one main road. So we had to run the same route every day. It was the same old. It was getting so boring. I was glad once the snow melted.
I bet that's really tough to be able to, especially an outside sport, a little bit with us, is having like around 0 degrees like practicing outside, or like just having a couple inches on the field, like having to get practice canceled because if it's unsafe to really practice on a bunch of snow and doing whatever, even though they can plow the field, is still coming down really hard. It's not quite the amount that Erie has with the lake effect snow, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, it's definitely all the spring sports out there. I feel for them because it's kind of the worst time to have your sport unless you're playing basketball or volleyball or an indoor sport. Like all the baseball, softball, track people. Honestly, it's like God bless you guys because being able to kind of constantly be on the move and be able to change on the fly just like that because the weather can be so different in the Northeast is really tough.
Well, and then like to deal with COVID, like all the COVID guidelines and getting tested and getting races canceled here and there, like that made for a disaster of a season as well. And like anytime you get in close contact, you're shut down for 3 days until you really get results back and everyone gets tested. So you really don't know what's going on. And like there'd be times when one kid on our team would have a positive result and no one would know where it came from. Did it come from class? Did they go somewhere? Like where did that come from? So the whole team shut down. So there were like a couple weeks where we would just get shut down for no reason and we weren't able to train, which that also put a big damper on things.
Yeah, I put a big damper on our team. In the fall, we weren't able to really do any anything at all, to be honest, because of COVID. There was a bunch of spikes in the whole school, and so it was like they just shut everything down pretty much and sent us home for the most part, which is unfortunate. But you guys alluded to it. So, John, you're from Ohio. Alex, you're a local kid. But you guys, what made you guys decide to go to Gannon and decide to run cross country? What's a little bit about your guys' story?
You got it.
Well, I knew I always wanted to run in college. Not running was never an option for me, really. All the schools I looked at, I was looking to run. Because I always felt like if I didn't run, I was just a waste of talent, and I thought I can get some money for it. So I ended up succeeding in doing that. But really why I picked Gannon, this is going to be so weird. Gannon was like one of the last schools I looked at. And I knew it was going to be up in Erie, so I knew it was going to be snowy. And I remember freshman year telling the guys, like, if it snows, like before my birthday, I'm transferring out. Yeah, I'm getting out of here. I can't be doing that. But no, one of the real reasons I came to Gannon was I had a friend that I went to high school with. He was 2 years ahead of us. He ran for Gannon, so like I knew he was going to be there. But I actually came on my visit, and I was visiting the business building in Gannon, and the entrepreneurship professor, he was really one of the main reasons I came, and actually committed to Gannon. And the team GPA was always pretty high at Gannon, so I figured that I would have a good balance between schooling and running. And I think it overall worked out. But yeah, if that answered your question. I can't remember what the question was.
He has why we went to Gannon. All right. So I went to prep, which is in Erie as well. It's right down the block from Gannon. But I'm from Oil City, which is an hour and a half south. I would drive up every day. And it was a bit of a grind. The kids at school kind of were like, why do you do this? But prep education was very much so worth it. And so in high school, I was a 3-sport athlete. I ran cross in the fall. I wrestled pretty much all year other than cross country season, and then did track in the spring. And I was pretty set on wrestling in college. I had a couple offers from all these like D2 schools. I could walk on to a couple D1 schools. And I pretty much had my heart set on Virginia Tech. I was like, I'm going to go to Virginia Tech. And then like I started thinking about it more, and I was like, I'm not really going to be able to compete there. Like I'll be able to go, they'll give me a couple like gimme matches. Like they're going to win. They're like, all right, this kid's a senior. Let's give him a match. Like just out of pity because he's never wrestled a match in his life. And I'm just like, I don't want that. And for me, trying to go to med school after this, I need to be able to stand out at my school and like kind of, it's like be the big fish in a small pond or be a normal, like a pretty decent sized fish in a huge pond. I can stand out a lot more at this small school. And I wasn't really even looking about running. And one of my teammates from high school ran here. And I texted him and was like, hey, like we ran about the same times in high school. I was like, do you think, like, could I get some money if I came here and ran? And he was like, sure, let me talk to coach. So talked to the coach. I signed May 1st, which for anyone that's signed for athletics knows that's like the last date you can sign. Like it was like midnight. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to fill this thing out. My mom's like, are you sure this is what you want to do? I'm like, yeah, I already sent the paper and it's too late now. So I signed, come here. I was an all right runner in high school and was like, yeah, I'll give it a try. Came in and was just surrounded by just this team's going to go down to something special for Gannon's history. So we're the biggest class in our school. Like for our school's history, we have like 9. We start with 9 kids in our class, which is huge because our team only had like a dozen kids on it last year. And like, so our freshman year, we were lucky enough to be around our school's first elite 90 athlete, which is he means he has the highest GPA if you compete at nationals. He was like the smartest kid in our conference. He won our conference. He was like the smartest kid in the region. He's just the smartest kid in the country. And our team is known for being one of the smartest teams in the country as well for men's cross country. We got second last year. We've gotten first the past 3 years other than that. So like that's just kind of something our coach really holds us up to and like make sure we hit study tables and get after that. So that was definitely an enticing factor to go after that. But now just being here and being around these guys, everyone's opened up and has become a lot better of a runner and I would say student altogether just because that's what everyone else is worried about. Everyone else has those common goals. Everyone else is going and doing like the big things and you don't want to be left behind. You just kind of just get used to it and see what everyone else is doing. You're just going to follow the leader.
Well, that's awesome. It seems like you guys are doing a great job running and academic wise, which is awesome. Like true testament of a student athlete, I think, just not necessarily what you're doing on the field, but what you do off the field with your podcast and what you guys are doing academically. Sounds like you guys are doing a really good job. Whether it's you guys or you guys' team, it's that's pretty sweet. But Alex and I actually went to kind of prep. He was a little class. He graduated in 19, and I graduated in 18. So that's how I know Alex. I think we were in a class to get 1 or 2 classes together or whatever. But I always thought Alex would be, like I said, I always thought Alex would be some sort of Division I or Division II wrestler. He always seemed like that was where he wanted to go, and he was really good at it. So I always thought. I was surprised that he went to Gannon. I was like, whoa, I would have not guessed that. I would guess he would have gone to somewhere, like I said, a bigger school, even a division, or even like wrestled at Gannon or something like that. And when you said you were running cross country, I was like so super surprised.
Yeah. So I didn't go on a single cross country visit anywhere. All my visits were wrestling. I didn't really even think about running in college. So my whole college or my whole high school career, the high school coach, the girls coach for our high school, we have a sister school, and she's a very talented runner. She won a national championship, Division I national championship when she was in college, and her kids have gone on to go to D1 colleges. She's very good. She's bred a lot of success at her team. But she'd always tell me, she's like, I think you need to pick running. Like, you're very talented at running. You're a good wrestler, but I think you're naturally better as a runner. And because I wouldn't invest any time into running because wrestling was my baby. I loved wrestling. That's what I'd done since I was little. Running was just kind of another thing I was good at. And I just did kind of on the side. It was like a side hustle, and wrestling was like the main gig. But I kind of just worked around it. And I was like, all right, I guess this is what I'll do. And then I started thinking about going to Gannon. And for people that don't know, for television listeners, Gannon, it has an expensive sticker price. It's a private school. It looks like it costs a lot, but they throw a ton of money to their kids. Like they give it if you take the SAT, they'll give you like 20 grand. So that automatically almost knocks the price in half. And then if you're from Erie County and all this, you went to an Erie high school, they just start adding on all this money. So by the time I got my tuition thing, and I was like, I can't turn that down. Like the price, it was just the best option for me. And I think that's why a lot of people come here, especially for athletics. Like, it's a great school. But the value is even better. Like, you're not going to pay a whole lot. It's going to look like you are like when you start out, but once everything kind of ticks down and you get to the end of it, you see that it's definitely going to be worth it, and you're going to get a hell of an education for what you're paying.
So also I have a question because I never get your guys' mindset. Why do you guys like to run? Like, why'd you pick a sport where you just run? I was like, man, I always watch like the track or cross country people. I'm like, I see them running around campus. I'm like, why do you how's that fun for anybody? Because I would be completely miserable. I don't think I'd get out of bed in the morning knowing that I got to run a bunch of miles today.
I think for me, I started running because I was a big basketball player, and I ran cross country to get in shape for basketball because I couldn't score very often. I wasn't that good at scoring, but I played good defense, so I wanted to be in shape where I could just be running up and down the court and they wouldn't have to take me out. But then it ended up being for me like I would never start for basketball. I was probably like our ninth man or something. But I went out for cross country my seventh grade year, and I was the second best kid on the team. And then I ended up quitting basketball going into high school, and qualified for state 3 years in a row. And then I kind of like clicked, like I could do this in college. I can continue running, and it just was probably the best investment of my time for the future. Definitely running was.
I don't have a good answer for this. Everyone asks me this all the time, and I'm just like, there's something about like running's a cult. Like the people that are in, they keep the people that are in. They're tight. Like you have like that special bond with somebody, and if you can go on a run with them, like we were just talking, we need the conversations you have on a run are just like they're special. Like they're so for us, we always do our long runs on Sundays. So whatever you did on Saturday night, everyone goes, does their own thing, whatever. By the time everyone gets back on Sunday morning, we go for our long run. Sometimes we go for 13. Like if we're in a normal season, that's what we'll go for a half marathon on Sunday mornings. And like that run, you're out there, you're just cruising along. And the only way you're going to get through that run is if you just start hanging out with the guys. It's just more time to hang out. Like you just got to start talking. It's just like adults when they just like sit around in a bar and talk. That's what it is for us. We just get to go out, run. We get to hang out with the guys. We just talk, whatever comes up. That's where we hash out all of our ideas. I know a lot of guys on our team. That's just like, that's how they get away from everything. If they're stressed, they go for a run. That's just what's natural to them. That's what's comfortable for them. That's where they feel at peace. And I feel like that's how it is for a lot of people. It's like a spiritual thing. Honestly, at that point, it's just something that it just makes you feel a certain way. And you do get that kind of like big league feeling like, all right, I know I can do something that a lot of people can't. So it makes you feel a little special.
I guess I understand it somewhat now. I still don't get like why, like I hate, like I don't like running. Like I couldn't run for anything over a mile. Like I won't do that. Like it's just not why. Like it's just like, and I understand like if for some people they have different hobbies and stuff, and if that's what you like to do, man, good for you. I just could never understand it. Like I can see it now that you talk about it and how people can escape from it. Cause like I do have different hobbies and things that I escape from that people might not understand that. So I guess I can understand that from that point, but I could just never understand why you would put that much, I guess, energy or like, I guess, soreness or hurt into like your legs or your knees or whatever you're doing, cause I just like every time I would run for a long period of time, that's what would happen to me.
Yeah. Well, I would say another thing for me is like, it doesn't matter. Nothing else matters when you run. Like, especially for now at college where they have to like you pick your teams and that's who's running. There's no politics. There's no anything. Like my girlfriend's on the soccer team and she's always like all but her when she doesn't get to play. Like I know if I'm playing, I put the work in, I put the time in, I beat all these other guys and I'm the guy that gets to run. I earned that spot. There's no guessing, picking. There's no this guy, this guy's dad knows this guy or whatever. It's whoever runs the fastest time. Whoever makes their legs runs the fastest, whoever puts one foot in front of the other the fastest, whoever can get out there and get it done is who gets like that. That's who gets the spot. And like now we're at the point where it's not just like in high school, you're like, all right, that guy, he's naturally talented, whatever. He's just fast. Now you're at the point where if somebody's winning something, you're just like, all right, that's a bad man right there. Like that dude he's nuts. He's crazy. Like to be able to run that fast, he obviously can just turn off what hurts. He knows how to just get out there and get work done. And it's a bad guy. So that's another thing for me that I think is just like, it's all natural. It's not talent. It's not skill. It's not anything. It's just you and the work you put in, and it directly shows.
Yeah, that's what makes it easy for you guys is that like track and then those sports, like even like you could say golf or even a little bit of tennis. It's like it's so individually based where like there's certain stats like golf, like, oh, I shoot this score or like and track, I run this time, cross country, I run this time, where it's like there's no favoritism really. It's just like whoever runs the fastest, yeah, that's who's going to run or who's going to play. Like there's no like if, ands, and buts about that, which probably makes it a lot less stressful on you guys. There's probably other stressors, but literally knowing whether you're knowing you're going to be able to compete or not in each race. I mean, you already know that you're going to be one of those guys because of the time and effort you've put in, but also the times that you've put in prior to that meet. So
I know another thing for my girlfriend, one thing she always talks about for soccer, she's like, she sees like people out on the field or whatever, like people that she thinks she should be playing over. And she was like, well, I know like I'm better than them, or I think they're better than them. The coach just doesn't see it. Like for us, if you're better than them, beat them. Like it's not that hard. Just be in front of them at the end of the race.
that's so true. That's so true. You guys talked a little bit about like different sports and growing up and playing different things. Do you think playing those other sports helps you kind of, one, figure out, oh, I want to run, but two, also help you perform at your high level, somebody who just might just be a runner? Or does it hurt you? Or what do you guys think?
So I know for you with wrestling, like that definitely helped you. For me, I played basketball and baseball, so like that, doesn't do a whole lot. But like I do know a lot of like runners who strictly run, and they're good, but they're not always as good as somebody who is like a multi-sport athlete. Like in my high school, my junior year, our whole entire varsity team, we finished 5th in Ohio. Everybody on the varsity team played basketball and then quit right before high school. Everybody. So we had like a weird like superstition that like you needed to, like our coaches needed to like look at the middle school basketball team and recruit the kids who suck but still like want to play and get them to run cross country. That was like kind of like our like superstition.
Yeah, I would say it depends on the person entirely. Like for me, I did a sport, I wrestled, which I don't think there's anything better for a kid. You're going to learn so many life lessons in wrestling that like it's a very valuable thing. But then like one of our roommates, his whole family's runners. He grew up running. He grew up going to every track race. He grew up going to all the state competitions. He's seen the best runners in the state for the past 15 years. Like he lives running. That's his thing. He's always done running. He did a couple other sports in high school, but like that was just like, they were hobbies. He wasn't doing that. He wasn't putting the time in. He was just doing that because that's what his buddies were doing, or that's what he wanted to do with the spare time. But like he's fully committed to running, and he's gotten to the point now where he's put in so much work that it's really starting to blossom because he's just been grinding for years and years and years.
Do you guys ever get tired of, just burnt out of running or anything like that? Do you go through periods and times where you want to run every day, but do you also get like weeks where you're like, man, I barely want to walk? Like
over the summer, last summer, I probably took like
the COVID summer.
I probably took 2.5 months of running off. And then my coach was like, oh, by the way, we're racing next week. I hadn't run in months. And I was like, oh, because it wasn't like I was hurt. I simply just didn't care and I didn't want to run. Like I felt like I had a good freshman year and I put in a ton of work. Going into that spring track season, I was in really good shape. Like that's all I wanted to do was race. And then they sent us home for COVID, and that like completely like ruined my mindset towards running. So that like next summer I was training, but like when we got the news that like we weren't having an official season, I completely shut down and I didn't start running again until like September. So there's definitely been times where I just haven't run. Because I didn't want to.
Yeah, no, I had kind of the same and also the opposite thing for John. So me and him were in the same boat. Our coach was like, all right, meeting tonight, 6:00. We're going to talk about our season. So at that point, we hadn't run for the day. And we're waiting for this meeting to figure out if we need to run for today. Because if coach tells us we're not running in the fall, I'm not going for a run today. So coach is like, all right, like season, we don't know what's going on, but it's not happening. So me and John were like, all right, well, we're not running today. So we took that day off, and I probably took a week off, and my summer was okay. I came in, I had an okay base underneath me. And for people that aren't runners, pretty much to train to be able to run well in the fall, you need to run hard from the end of May to the day you come to school in August. Like you need to train hard all summer. I'm talking probably minimum of 8 miles a day. Well, and then you need added workouts and all the long runs and all other kinds of stuff. It's just going to build up. So for training, you want to like basically kind of build this like mountain. You're going to start off kind of slow. You just came out of track season. You're not running as high mileage. You're trying to run faster. So now you just start building that mileage up. And you're going to start, like we're at a point now where we're running like 30, 40 miles a week when we start up. And we're going to, by the end of the summer, we're going to be running 70 miles a week. So at that point, I was running okay. I probably was running 50. I was kind of in the middle somewhere. Wasn't entirely prepared. And we had 2 races, just inter-squad stuff, like I mentioned, and it was okay. But that lit a fire underneath me because I was like, all right, I know I should be running better. So I came in and I grinded all winter. Like after we got sent home, or after the end of the semester, started grinding really hard in December and January. And then by the time we came in, a lot of the guys hadn't really trained. They just kind of took their break. And I really started to pop off in a couple of the races. And the coach was like, damn, what did you do? And I was like, I just kept at it. I was like, I was tired. Like because in those races, I was getting 7th. And for cross country, they only run 7 guys. And I knew we had a couple guys that weren't even running in those races that were going to beat me. Anyways, they were just hurt at that point. I was like, so right now, realistically, I'm 10th on this team. If I want to be able to travel to these races, I need to start picking it up. So I picked it up, and I actually had a pretty successful spring season. But like a lot of the guys are at the point where they're like, all right, I'm going to take some time off, but I'm still riding this high where I had a pretty good season and actually ended with a terrible track race this last weekend. So I have that fueling me. So I would be there. There's times you just lose inspiration, but like if you there's times also when you just have a bad race or you have a point to prove and you just get after it.
Yeah. How mental is running? I feel like it's a lot of mental because of being able to push yourself, because nobody's really pushing you. You kind of got to push yourself. How mental is your guys' sport?
I'm going to say 95%.
Yeah. Because I would say at the level we're at, pretty much everyone has the same training. Doesn't matter. Everyone's like, each school is going to have their own like training thing they're going to do a little differently. But for the most part, everyone is in the same shape. Everyone can run the same time. It's just who's willing to hurt more. Like for our conference race, my goal wasn't a time. My goal was I want to finish in pain, because that's how I know I put it all out there. If I run comfortably, I'm going to run in an okay time. But if I'm willing to put in the hurt, that's when I'm going to lay down a good time.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. I mean, I always say it's pretty much everybody has the same training, but it's who's tougher. And whoever's tougher finishes faster. They cross the line first.
I always thought like whoever can just they leave everything on what they got, on the track or in the race or whatever it is. Because I always thought, why not just like literally just be dead like afterwards and then stuff like that? Because you see that like with people running those marathons and whatever at crazy amounts at crazy paces. It's incredible. Like I always forget how mental, like when I even start, like when I'm doing conditioning or stuff like that, it's even just like how it's all mental. It's not even, I'm able to do everything that my coach or whoever's making the plan, able to do. I'm able to do it every time. It's just whether I'm mentally ready to push through.
Yeah. Well, for me, like I said, wrestling, I learned a lot from there about the mental aspect of competing and like kind of holding your cards back. You don't want to show everyone how your emotions, because once they see your emotions, they know exactly what you're going to do. But for me, and Tyler knows this, but Tyler had a classmate, Ian. He was on my wrestling team, and he wrestled at the world team qualifiers. And he was going to make the team, but he got injured. He was actually paralyzed, and now he's in a wheelchair and can't walk. And on my spikes, all my running shoes, I wrote "Be a Dog." That was like his hashtag that he used, and kid's super inspirational. He does amazing work. But so I have that written on my spikes, and every time, whenever I just don't want to go for a run or I'm not really feeling it, I'm like, all right, I would be cheating him because I know if he had that chance to go for a run, like I'm just like, oh, I don't really feel like it. Like what he would do to walk, what he would do to run, what he would do to run this race right now, he would do anything. So I'm like, I have to be able to put that out there, like because it's not just him. There's tons of people like that, and I'm just talented enough, and I've been given that ability to be able to do it. So I got to go do it for those people at least.
I 100% agree. I think it's so important finding your why and why you do things, because at the end of the day, it'll just push you to do even better and greater things. And out of most of my whys, I have a couple whys, and he's one of them. The reason why I do what I do, I think, from whether it's every day or in that classroom or on the field or whatever it is, I kind of think back and like Ian was one of the hardest working kids I've ever known in my life. Crazy son of a gun,
He's a psychopath. Love the kid.
Straight psycho, pretty much. And, I love Ian to death. I love having him on the show for sure. But he's doing great things down in Miami and stuff. And he's took the mindset of he's not going to let something in his life happen and make it define him. He's going to define his life. He's not going to let that define him, which I think is so great, and what he's doing down there. And, like I said, I hope I can get him on the podcast here soon.
Yeah, no, he's a big inspiration for me, and I kind of brought that onto the team too. We did a run in the fall. We ran from our campus to his hometown Northeast, which is 18 miles. Well, we went into it thinking it was going to be 15, and we got about 15 miles out. And we're like, oh, we almost here, and we're like, oh, we got 3 more miles to go. This is going to be interesting. So that was definitely something that got the boys going, but definitely an inspiration source for the whole team as well here too.
That's awesome. Before we wrap things up, guys, just talk a little bit again about your podcast and where people can listen, what you guys talk about, and your why on your podcast again.
All right, cool. So it's Running the World podcast. You can follow us on Instagram at RTW_podcast. And we post our content everywhere: YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music. I think those are the
if you hit the link in our bio on Instagram, it opens up our website and it has all the places we're available. We're on Apple Music, we're on Spotify, the 2 big ones, but we're on, I think, 11 different audio platforms, as well as YouTube. John does a killer job with the YouTube videos, so go show those some love. We just talk about everything. We talk about being student athletes. We talk about just random stuff. We'll just try random things and record our reactions because we like to think we're funny. We'll talk about whatever's going on in the world. Last week we talked about the boxing match, and we talked about all the stuff that's going on with what was going on with the Super League for soccer. And we talk a lot about UFC, not a lot, but whenever there's a UFC event, we always spend a couple minutes recapping that. If you didn't want to spend the $50, we'll save you $50 every week and give you a little rundown on what happened. Yeah, we just talk about a little bit of everything. Our podcast, we're a very open platform. We're always willing to accept DMs. We'll throw up on our story before we get into the booth, and we're like, hey, what do you guys want to hear from us this week? What do you want us to talk about? We're very fan driven. Whatever people want us to talk about, we'll research it up and show it some love.
For the people, that's what I like to say. For the people, man. That's what
Absolutely.
100% for the people. Whatever they want to hear, man. I'm okay. But guys, don't forget to check those guys out, man. They're doing some great stuff. Content they're creating. It's a lot of fun, interesting, man. You can get anywhere from crazy to fun to, very serious stuff. It's a vast variety of things, kind of whatever mood you're in, they got something for you. So don't be afraid to check those guys out. And guys, again, thanks for coming on the podcast. It was an honor to have you guys on. I love your content, what you guys do, and keep it up. And, if I don't talk to you guys before next fall, good luck next fall. And, run your legs off. You know what I'm saying? So
thanks, buddy. You too. I'll keep an eye out for you on ESPN some more.
All right, maybe a couple more. You never know. All right. Well, guys, again, thanks for coming on, and don't forget to check these guys out. And guys, don't forget to check those guys. Don't forget to check our podcast out, the TO Show. Don't forget to subscribe and like to the channel and whatnot. And for next episode, see you guys. Peace.
Peace.
Peace.